I was going to do adjusting shoulders, so a little bit of pattern cutting. So I'm going to just move these out the way here. So I've done these in red so you can see them. It's a very simple piece of pattern cutting that you can do. If you have made your toile, obviously you've been good and you've made your toile, and you find that the shoulder is either too long or too short, it's very tempting to just cut a piece off the armhole or add a piece here, but of course that's going to really affect your sleeve. So there's a better way of doing it. I'm just going to grab a pen, which I want to show you here. So instead of taking a bit off the edge here, what we're going to do is draw a line from the middle of the shoulder here into the armhole, and I normally go, there's no real rule about this, but I generally go to, before it starts to curve, I would draw a line from the shoulder into the armhole to just before it's going to curve there. Okay, then mark where your stitching line is. Whenever you're doing any pattern alterations, you'll always want to be doing them to your lifting the shoulder as well. Okay, I'll try and do that one as well. Oh, I haven't got a sleeve. Anyway, I'll talk about that in a minute. So whenever you're doing any pattern alterations, it's really important to do them to the stitching line, not the cutting line. It's more accurate that way. So there's two ways you can do it. You could cut off all your seam allowances, do your alterations and then redraw them, or you could just mark on your pattern where your stitching line is going to be. So that's where I've marked there, is the stitching line. So then we're going to take this and cut one way to that mark and from the other way. Okay, so if you are, this is going to be a pivot point here. I haven't cut quite far enough in there. Let me just go a bit further in here. So what I'm doing is creating a pivot point here at the stitching line. So if you're shortening a shoulder, you would overlap like that. So if you're overlapping, if you're shortening, you would just overlap. Say you want to shorten your shoulder by ½ an inch, you overlap here by ½ an inch, and then you would stick that down. And I like to use masking tape, mainly because I can draw on it. I like to use a bit of masking tape. There. Let me overlap it and then stick it down. That'd be handy.
It's going well.
Shush you, I don't need heckling from behind the camera. Okay, so I've overlapped that there, but now you can see whenever you do one form of pattern cutting, you create another issue. So we've created this little step here. So let me all organise with bits of paper and everything. What we do is stick another piece of paper underneath, and stick that in there, and then you redraw the shoulder seam. So you want to go from the armhole edge to the neck edge, so you're not affecting the length of the shoulder and you're not affecting the length of the neckline either, but you are just redrawing your shoulder seam, and that's all you need to do. So that's your white. Same if you want to make your shoulders longer, do the same thing, just open that up and then redraw the shoulder seam. What was the other thing? Lifting the shoulder. Well, there's a couple of things you can do for lifting the shoulder. Let me just cut this out. But you have to remember that when you lift a shoulder, it's going to affect the sleeve as well. If it's a sleeveless garment, that's fine, easy. So if you're, oh, let me just trim that off. So again, it's all about creating pivot points. So if your garment fits you really well at the neck here, but you want to raise the shoulder, or if you want to raise both bits, I'll show you at an angle anyway. So if you're just raising at the shoulder here, then again you would cut across here. And this is the same thing if you want to lower it as well. You need to lift a shoulder. So you could, if you're just lifting the shoulder but you're okay at the neck, you can just do it this way. You can just create that way. I haven't quite cut to the edge. My scissors, my paper scissors aren't very sharp. So you could just raise it at the armhole but keep the neck the same. But if you want to raise it all the way across, you're just gonna, you can cut right across and raise it that way. Of course, this would then affect your neckline and your arm. So for the neckline, you'd need to recut your facing. You'd have to trace the facing that. And for the armhole, you'd have to cut across the top of the sleeve and raise that up as well. So it just depends. I think, when would you need to lift a shoulder? It could be that you feel that it's not long enough between here and the bust point. That could be the reason. And I can do a whole demo on that. Another point about moving the bust point. It might be easier, instead of raising the shoulder, to lower the bust point and move the dart. So that might be...
What FBA?
Well, no, moving the dart, you might not have to do a full bust adjustment. You might just want to move the dart down. Because a lot of us, I think what Suzanne might be referring to is if the... it's about measurements. We've all done our measurements, and if you check the measurement from the shoulder seam at the neck here down to the apex of the bust here, that measurement there is really important, because that will be the direction that you want your dart to point in. And if your garment's got a dart, then you want it to be pointing the right place. And none of us are the same between here and here. Not making any more comment at that point. But also depending on what bra you're wearing. So instead of raising the shoulder, we just draw a dart on here, and I'll just show you that, because that's quite a interesting point. So on a pattern, you will often see a couple markings. Let me run. On a commercial pattern, you often see markings like triangles here at the neck, and that is the shoulder point. And you'll see a circle with a cross in it, and that's the bust point. So the measurement from the shoulder seam to the neck, to the bust point here, shoulder seam at the neck here, to the bust point, is the one that you want to compare. So your one may end up that your bust point's here. Very possibly. So if your garment's got a dart, like this one here, at the side, can you see this on the screen, Ames, all right?
Yes.
Just drawn a dart, good. So if your garment's got a dart, it'll be pointing to the pattern's bust points, it'll be pointing here. We want it to point to here, otherwise it's not in the right place. So what you do, I'm just going to draw a grain line on this pattern because I hadn't done that. I wasn't expecting to do grain liney things. Okay. So basically what we want to do is move this dart down. I think everyone's really concentrating because we're not getting any comments. And you draw, what you do is draw a line around the dart. So you draw a line that's parallel to the grain line at the point of the dart, and then you draw one perpendicular, I've got to lean forward, sorry, perpendicular above and below, like that. And then I'm going to cut that box out. Here, and slide it down. So whatever difference it is between those two bust points is how much you want to slide your dart down. So I've lost my ruler, but I'm just going to do it by eye, but you will be measuring this really accurately, obviously. I'm just giving you the principle here. So you would slide, whatever the difference is between those two bust points, you would slide that dart down. So the dart is then going to be pointing at your bust point. But make sure you go straight down on this line so that your dart is still in the right angle. And then you just stick a piece of paper back underneath. Now, because I wasn't prepped for doing a dart, you can see that normally you'd have a little bit of shape here at the end of the dart. Look at my lovely Frankenstein pattern here. Here. So I'm just going to stick a bit of extra paper here so I can show you, because you would need to do this anyway if you were moving a dart. You'd need to, so if you've moved a dart down, you extend it onto your extra paper at the side here, because what you need to do is fold the bottom line of the dart up onto the top line. So your pattern will go all concave like that, because you know it's got to, the whole idea is it's to give you shape. And then you just cut up the side. So cut up the side through all the layers. Obviously it's a bit tricky with this paper because it's quite thick. There we go. And that will give you the nice shape at the side there, which you need. You need that bit of fabric to sit underneath when you do your dart. So even when you move a dart, you'll need to do that. I hope that was helpful.